Hey there, welcome back to another video. Today, we're working on our portfolio website. In the last video, we made the website responsive. This is part 3 of our project, where we'll finish up the site. Let's see what we'll be creating. First, we'll design an About section. Then, we'll move on to the portfolio. Next up is the Services section. It looks great too, with images and text. We'll also include a Contact Us section and a small footer. The footer has copyright text and social media icons. Now, let's test its responsiveness. All the sections work perfectly on small devices. Let's kick off the video by building the About section. Start by creating a div element with the class name About and an identical ID. Within this div, add another div with the class name About.img. Insert an img tag and set the image source to your hero image path. Now, outside the previous div, create an additional div without assigning any class. Inside this new div, make another div with the class name AboutContent. Inside this div, place a h2 element with the class heading and the text About Me. Following the heading, insert a p element with some dummy lorem ipsum text. Moving out of the About Content div, add another div with the class name SkillContainer. Inside the SkillContainer div, create a div and assign it the class Skill1. Within this Skill1 div, place another div with the class Skill. Inside the Skill div, insert one more div element with the class SkillName. This is the heading, so the heading will be HTML. Within div, make another div with the class SkillBar. Lastly, create another div with the class SkillPer. Include an attribute per with a value of 90% and add a style attribute with a max width of 90%. Now, go ahead and duplicate this code 3 times. 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times. Make sure to change the heading names. Adjust the per attribute values. And update the max width values as needed. Excellent. We have one image and some text here. Next up, let's focus on styling. First, we will style this About class. Apply these properties. Set display to flex. Use justify content and align items, both set to center. Observe the outcome. To introduce some spacing between the image and the text, utilize the gap property with a value of 3.2 rem. Additionally, include padding of 7 rem for the top and bottom, and 15% for the left and right. The background color should be set to BG light color. The background color is changed for About part. Alright, it's time to work on styling the image. Let's target the image element and make some adjustments. We'll add a margin of 45 pixels from the top, and set the width and height to 19 rem. Now, this About section is looking good. Now, let's create a clipping effect for the background. Select the About Image class, and use the WebKit Mask Image property. Inside, use the URL function with the path to the background image. For this purpose, I prepared an image in the image folder, which we'll use as the background for the image in the About section. Then, apply the Mask Image property with the same URL. This will give us the desired masking effect for the image. Fantastic! Moving on, let's style the About Me heading. In the HTML, we assigned a class to the heading. Simply copy that class and paste it into your CSS. Set the font size to 2.2 rem, font weight to 500, and the text color to white. To create some space below the heading, apply a margin bottom of 15 pixels. There you have it, the image and heading are now beautifully styled according to our design. Moving forward, let's enhance the styling for the paragraph element. To achieve this, select the paragraph within the About Content class. Set the font size to 0.9 rem and establish a line height of 1.3. Apply a color of Para color and set the font family to Mulish. With these adjustments, the image, heading, and paragraph will seamlessly complement each other. Now, on to styling the skills progress bar. To begin, add a comment to indicate this section. Head over to the HTML, copy the skill container class, and paste it into your CSS. Introduce some spacing by applying a margin top of 20 pixels. Following that, copy the same class and assign it a width of 100%. As we progress, let's style the skill names. Copy this class from the HTML and paste it into your CSS. Adjust the font size to 16 pixels, set the font weight to 500, and give it a white color. Apply text transform with a value of uppercase to automatically convert lowercase text into uppercase. To finalize this section, add a vertical spacing of 7 pixels both at the top and bottom. Alright, let's make the skill bar. First, copy the skill bar class and come to CSS Paste here. Make it a bit taller, so set the height to 10 pixels. Use a muted color for the bar, which we can pick from the Para color background. Round the edges by a border radius of 2 pixels. Now, we want to show the skill level as a percentage with purple color on this gray line. Copy the above code and paste it here. Copy the skill per class from HTML and replace it with this class. Keep the height the same at 10 pixels, but this time, let's make the background color purple. We're about to create a box that will appear at the end of the purple-colored line. This box will hold the skill percentage, like 90% or 60%. Here's how we'll do it step by step. First, we'll select the skill per class. Then, we'll add the word before to this class. Inside the content attribute, which is inside brackets, we'll use the word per. This is the same word we set up earlier in the HTML. To style this box nicely, we'll apply a padding of 4 pixels on top and bottom, and 6 pixels on the left and right. We'll set the background color to white. We have a box of white color containing numbers, and give it rounded corners with a border radius of 4 pixels. The font size will be 12 pixels to ensure it's easily readable. To position this box precisely, we'll make its position absolute. This allows us to control its placement. We'll then move it to the right side using the top to -35 px and right to 0 pixels. To center it horizontally, we'll use transform, translate x, 50%. The object is not visible here. To make it visible, we must introduce an additional property here, which is the position relative property. With these instructions, we'll have successfully created a clean white box at the end of the purple line, where we can show the skill percentage. Begin by copying the provided code and pasting it here. Remove the word before and replace it with after. Modify the content property, wrapping it with double quotes. Remove the padding. Adjust the width and height of the box to 10 pixels. Remove the font size property. Change the top value to -15. In the transform property, after translate x, add rotate 45 degrees to rotate the box. Great! We have made a small box under these box. Everything is looking good so far. Reduce the border radius to 2px. However, the About section isn't responsive yet. Let's fix that. Create a media query for a maximum screen width of 900 pixels. Inside the media query, apply the Flex Direction property to the About class, setting it to column. This will make the image and text align vertically. Add some spacing around the About section. On a small screen, the About section is responsive now. Image and text are arranged in the column for a small screen. Now, for screens 900 pixels or less, set the About content width to 100%. Additionally, reduce the image size. Select the image element and set its width to 14 rem with a height of auto. Finally, let's test the result. With these changes, our About section will be fully responsive and adapt well to different screen sizes. Let's move ahead and work on the next section, which will be the portfolio display. In your HTML code, start by adding a comment to mark the beginning of the portfolio section. Here's a step-by-step breakdown of what you need to do. Create a div element and give it a class name of portfolio and also use the same name as its ID. Inside this div, insert an h2 element with the class heading. And set its text to portfolio. Next, add another div element with the class portfolio container. This div will hold each portfolio entry. For each portfolio item, create a div with the class portfolio box. Use an img tag to display an image. Directly beneath the image, add a div with the class portfolio layer. Inside this div, insert a h4 heading to indicate the project type, such as web design. After the heading, insert a p tag to provide a short description of the project. Below the description, include an anchor tag to create a link. You can also add an icon within the anchor tag to serve as a link indicator. Let's pick the icon from the Font Awesome website. Just search here right arrow. Select this one and copy the HTML code. Paste it here. Now, you can duplicate this entire code block 5 more times. Make sure to update the image paths for each portfolio entry. Next, change the third entry. Next, fourth. Now, the fifth entry. And at the end, last. We have added 6 images with their corresponding text. Let's enhance the look of this section. Copy this class portfolio and come to CSS. First, add a comment for this section before writing the code. To begin, I'll work on styling the heading. Set text to align center. And add some spacing from the top by padding top. The heading is currently positioned at the center. Moving forward, I'll proceed to adjust the image sizes. Image is inside this portfolio box div. So, copy this class and paste in CSS. By setting both the width and height to 100%, we can ensure that the images cover the entire available space. Additionally, I'll add an effect when hovering over the images. For this, use transition with a duration of 0.5 seconds and an easing function. This is for smooth animation. Duplicate the above code. Add hover word with image. Apply the transform, scale, 1.1 property. When I hover on the image, its size increases smoothly. In your HTML, copy this class, then switch to your CSS. We're using a grid system to make your section look good on different screens without much code. Just add display, grid. For the columns, use grid template columns, use repeat function in brackets, I can use autofit. After the comma min-max, 350px, 1fr. This makes sure the columns adjust nicely and don't get too small or too big. To add some space between images, use grid gap, 30px. Check your work to see how it's coming along. That's great. Currently, images take the full width, let's add some spacing. I can use padding with the values for all sides 3 rem, 75px, 7 rem, 75px. That makes things look nice. Let's get into styling the heading, paragraph, and icon. We'll start with the heading. Copy this class and paste it into CSS. Increase the font size to 1.8 rem and set the color to white. Simply copy and paste this code for the paragraph too, but change the font size to 1 rem. To give some spacing, add a margin of 0.3 rem from the top, 0 from the left and right, and 1 rem from the bottom. Let's update this value to 1fr. Moving on to the icon. Select the anchor tag that wraps the icon. Use display inline flex to keep it in line with the text. Align it nicely by setting justify content, center and align items, center. Increase its size with width and height set to 3.5 rem. Its background color will be white. Make it a circle by using border radius, 50%. To remove the underline, set text decoration, none. Finally, give the icon a purple color. This arrow icon is visible now, as we've just finished styling it. Let's style the portfolio box and its gradient color layer. Target the portfolio box class. Set its position to relative. For a rounded border, I can use a border radius of 6 pixels. Add a border of 1 pixel solid white color. This will create a subtle border around the images. Let's give it a slight shadow using box shadow, 0.05px white. Use one more property, overflow, hidden. Take a look, we've put a border around the image and added a slight shadow, giving it a nice touch. The text and arrow icon are currently not visible. Our next step involves bringing these elements to the foreground of the image and applying a purple background color. Come back to HTML and copy this class portfolio layer and paste it into CSS. Set its position to absolute. This allows you to adjust its position easily. Align it to the bottom and left by using bottom, 0 and left, 0. To cover the entire area, set width and height to 100%. Now, let's add a gradient color behind the text. First, let's create a nice background using a linear gradient with 2 colors. One color will be transparent black with an opacity of 0.1, and the second color, of course, purple. Next, we'll center the content vertically and horizontally. Use display, flex, and set justify content, center and align items, center. All the content is now centered but horizontal. Let's make it vertical. To stack the things vertically, you can use flex direction, column. To give some space on the sides, add padding to the left and right. Now, for the hover effect, we'll make the text appear smoothly from the left side. Apply transform, translate x, -100%, to the content initially. Currently, the text is disappearing. To create the effect smooth, use transition. Transform 0.5 SEs. On hover, we'll make the content come back into view. add a hover selector for portfolio box. And set transform, translate x, 0, for the content. This will make the text slide in from the left when you hover over the image. It's a neat touch that adds to the overall design. Let's ensure our portfolio section looks great on different devices. It's not totally responsive. Let's make it fully responsive for small screens. To achieve this, we'll use a media query with a maximum width of 450 pixels. Here's what you need to do. First, go back to the code where we worked on the portfolio section. Copy this code and paste it here. Remove 350 pixels and write it 200 px. Add some padding from all sides. Our portfolio section is fully responsive for small devices. But here is the one issue. Text and icon size is too large for this screen size. Let's make it small. First, target the heading element. Its font size will be 1 rem, and the width for this will be 150 pixels. Text align center to center the heading. Copy this code and paste it below for the paragraph element. Change H4 with P. Just change one property, that is font size, to 0.6 rem. The heading and paragraph sizes are just right, but the icon is too big. We'll make it smaller by focusing on the anchor tag. We'll adjust its width and height to 1.5 rem. Now, it looks better. However, there's an issue with the paragraph not being completely centered. Let's fix that and come back to CSS. Go back up a bit and make more changes here. Remove the margin and use the text align center property to center it properly. Now, it's centered completely. Next up, we're going to start building the services section. Let's head back to your HTML file for this. Create a new div and give it the class name service container. Assign the ID services to it. Inside this div, insert an h2 element with the class name heading and heading services. Now, let's set up the layout. Add another div with the class name service row. Within the service row div, create a new div and give it the class name service. To add an image, use the img tag and set the src attribute to the image path. Alongside the image, include a heading element with the text web design. Complete this section by adding some sample text within a paragraph element. Duplicate the entire section we just created a total of 5 times. In the second duplicated section, update the image path to edit video and change the heading to video editing. In the third section, set the image path to logo and update the heading to logo design. For the fourth section, use the image path web development and keep the heading as web development. In the fifth section, assign the image path marketing and retain the heading as marketing. In the final duplicated section, modify the image path to SEO and change the heading to SEO. Following these steps will generate a series of service sections, each with distinct images and headings. We've finished the HTML part. It's time to give services part a polished look. Copy the service container class and paste it into your CSS code. Adjust the background color to your liking. Apply padding of 7 rem for the top and bottom, and 75 px for the left and right. This will give your service section a nice cushioned appearance. Moving on, let's style the H1 heading. Set the text alignment to the center. To create some space underneath the heading, add a margin of 4 rem to the bottom. This ensures the heading stands out and looks well placed. Alright, let's make some updates. First, copy the service row class from HTML and paste it into CSS. Now, let's move up a bit. Copy these 3 lines of code again and paste them below. This is how our services section looks. Now, let's style this service class. Set the padding to 25px for a comfortable look. Add a subtle border radius of 2px. Adjust the font size to 14px. Set the cursor to pointer for interactivity. Make the background transparent. Later, we will add a hover effect to it. For smooth hover, I can use this transition property with all in 0.5 seconds duration. Change the background color of each service box to white. Let's comment out the background transparent. It will not affect the result. You can notice that the image size is too large. No problem. In the service class, target the img tag and set its width to 80px. This should make the images fit better. There's a problem with the heading being centered. Let's resolve this. Open the HTML document. I will change all the H2 headings to H3. Because, earlier, we had aligned the H2 to the center. Style the H3 element by giving it a font weight of 600. To give it some space from the bottom, add a bottom margin of 8px. When you hover over these boxes, we'll make them change color and increase in size. To do this, apply the hover pseudoclass to the service class. Set the background color to a pale purple shade and use transform, scale, 1.1 to increase the size a bit. This creates a dynamic effect where the color and size shift as you hover. Now, let's focus on the center boxes, specifically box 2 and box 5, and change their color to purple. To achieve this, you can utilize the nth child selector on the service class. Use parentheses and specify the numbers 2 and 5. For these boxes, set the background color to an even lighter shade. The color of the middle boxes has been changed. Copy this block of code and place it here. Then, include the word hover. This change ensures that the color shifts to white when hovered over. You can see its responsiveness when I reduce the screen size. Let's make it fully responsive for small devices. Let's add a comment for this. We'll use the media query. This rule will activate when the screen is 450 pixels or less. Select the service container class and apply 7 rem of padding on the top and bottom, and 45 pixels on the left and right sides. Let's reduce the size of each box to a 450 pixel screen. Target the service row class. Move above, copy this line, and paste it below. Change 350 to 200 pixels. When the screen size is smaller, the size of the box is 200px, which is looking good. But, a little issue to address. When the screen size becomes smaller, the images and text end up on the left side. We want them to be nicely centered. To do this, we'll use a trick on the service part. We'll tell it to put everything in the center using text align, center. This change will make the images and text line up nicely in the center on small screens. The images are too big, no worries. We can make them smaller. Just choose the img part and use the width rule with a value of 50 pixels. Fantastic job, our services section is all set and ready to go. It works smoothly on all devices. Plus, the design looks really nice. Moving forward, let's dive into creating the contact section. Begin by crafting a div and assign the class contact form container to it. Give this div an ID named contact as well. For the contact form heading, employ an h1 element and add a class called heading. This will help style the heading appropriately. Since we're constructing a contact form, let's make use of the form element. Within this form, you can introduce an input tag. Set its ID to name and use the placeholder text your name. It's important to set this field as required. To establish the email input, replicate the previous input tag. Modify the placeholder accordingly. Remove the ID attribute and change its type to email. The size attribute can be set to 30. Following this, include a text area tag. Assign it the ID subject. Inside the placeholder, provide a text message. To structure the total height of the text area, use style and set the height to 200 pixels. We currently have 2 inputs and 1 text area, and I understand that the appearance isn't ideal. No need to worry, we'll take care of the styling. Lastly, you'll need a submission button to send the form data. Utilize an input tag, this time with the type submit. The value can be set as send. Alright, we've finished the HTML code. To begin, copy the class contact form container and switch over to the CSS section. For aligning the entire form in the center, use text align, center. Create spacing from all sides using padding with values 0 at the top, 260 px on both sides and 7 rem at the bottom. Now, let's focus on styling the heading. In HTML, change the heading H1 to H2. Align it perfectly in the center with text align, center. Add padding of 7 rem at the top and 3 rem on the bottom. Let's change this value to 260 px. Moving on to the input tags, select those with the text and email types, along with the text area tag. Separate each tag selector with a comma. Apply the following styles. Font size, 15 px. Font weight, 400. Display as an inline block. Width of 70% to allow proper spacing. Height of 3.2 rem. A margin of 14 px at the bottom. Padding of 4 px at the top, 16 px on the left, and 16 px on the right. Set the text color to white. Add a 2 px solid border with a color defined by paracolor. Border radius of 2 px. Background with a color defined by BG light color. Apply a smooth transition effect with transition, all 0.3s. Time to see the outcome. Our form inputs are all set, and now we'll focus on styling the submit button. Choose the input with the type of submit. Set its width to 70%. Now, if you scroll up a bit and copy the code that we wrote for the hero button and paste it below. Our contact section is looking good now. First, change the padding value to adjust the top spacing of this section. Let's add a hover effect on the button. Move up and copy this code. Paste it below. Add a border radius of 2 px here. Currently, our form is not responsive. As for the form's responsiveness, let's copy the media query code from above. Paste it at the end. Remove all the code inside the media query, and change the max width value to 900 pixels. In the contact form container class, add padding to the left and right sides, each with a value of 10 pixels. With this simple addition, our form will become responsive and adapt gracefully to different screen sizes. Go back up. Here, the incorrect class was provided. Let's change it. Reset the padding to 0 once more. The incorrect class caused our Contact Us section to lack proper spacing from both the top and bottom. Change padding bottom to 2 rem. At this point, our contact section is fully prepared and looking fantastic. Moving forward, our next task is to create a simple and small footer. Now, for the footer itself, we'll utilize the footer tag. Within this tag, insert a div with the class footer. Additionally, add a paragraph element to the mix, containing the text copyright. To include the copyright symbol, you can use the copyright character. For the final touch, introduce an anchor tag. Within this tag, you can place the text web content. The anchor tag will render this text as a link. Alright, let's move on to creating a section for social media icons. We'll begin by utilizing the unordered list tag. Assign this list a class of socials. Within this tag, employ list item tags. For each list item, use an anchor tag. Within these anchor tags, you can add font awesome icons representing various social media platforms. Start with the Facebook icon. To streamline the process, duplicate this code 4 more times. In the second list item, the Twitter icon. The third is YouTube. The fourth is the LinkedIn icon. And finally, the fifth icon of the GitHub. We have successfully added the social media icons. Moving beyond the unordered list, introduce a div with the class footer menu. Within this div, create another unordered list. Just like before, use lead tags and anchor tags. Here, we're setting up quick links for the Home, About, and Services sections. Let's change the name and ref values quickly. Next, we'll proceed to style this footer, copy this footer class, and paste it into the CSS. Apply these properties to the footer. Display, flex to arrange elements in a row. Justify content, space between for spacing between items. Align items, centered to align items vertically. Let's check the result. The footer is looking like this. Background, BG light color for the background color. Padding, 25px 40px to set padding. Now, let's refine the paragraph tag style. Set the font size to 14 pixels and the text color to white. Moving on to the anchor tag, apply a color defined by paracolor and a font size of 16 pixels. Ensure there's no text decoration. To add finesse to the icons, bring over the socials class from the HTML and paste it into the CSS. List style, none to remove bullet points. Display a flex. Align items, center and justify content, center for centered alignment. For list items, add a margin of 0.14 px. Now, let's style the anchor tags within the list of items. Remove text decoration and set the color to white. Let's add more customization to these social media icons by selecting the eye element and applying the following properties. Font size 20px. Border radius 50% for a circular shape. Background color will be a gray color. Color, text color. Padding 0.5 rem. Text align, center. Transition, all 0.3 s in out for a smooth transition. For an engaging hover effect on icons, let's employ the hover pseudoclass on the I tag. Set the background color to purple. The icon's color shifts when I hover over it. Moving on, we'll focus on styling the footer menu. Transfer this class to your CSS and proceed to apply the following styles. Use display, flex on the unordered list. The list is now displayed horizontally. Next, select list items by li tag. Apply padding right 10px. For the anchor tag within the footer menu, set the color to white. Remove the underlined using text decoration none. And add a transition duration of 0.3 seconds. Enhance the user experience with a color change on hover. The text color should shift to purple. You can see the bullets are available with list items. Let's remove it. Here, just add the list style property to none. Our footer design is nearly complete, but it requires responsiveness. Implement a media query with a maximum width of 900 pixels. Within this query, modify the footer's flex direction to column. Additionally, apply a margin bottom of 25 pixels to both the paragraph tag and the social media icons. With this responsive design in place, our footer will adapt seamlessly to smaller devices. Congratulations, your website is now fully developed. Clicking on the header links leads to the respective sections, but the transition is abrupt. I can make it smoother by adjusting the behavior. In the CSS document, move to the top and add an HTML selector with the property scroll behavior, smooth. Let's test working properly or not. Yeah, it's working. If you have any inquiries, feel free to ask in the comments section. If you found this tutorial helpful, kindly like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated on future videos.